What's up, witches? My name is Taylor and I'm the Tempest Witch here on YouTube, and today we're talking about nettles. So I've had this particular bundle of stinging nettle drying for a few weeks. There's the 4-foot plants outside of my garage. If you watched my previous warding video, you saw those. But handling stinging nettle, as the name goes, stings. So I kind of wanted to wait for it to dry a little bit so it's easier to handle, so that I could make it into smaller pieces and then put it into my apothecary. It's taken me a little bit to film this video, but here we are. I looked it up because I was like, there's gotta be different versions of stinging nettle. Nettle is the umbrella term, and nettle is an English word that literally just means stinging hairs. So it's plants that have these fine hairs that cause irritation if you put them on your skin topically. And so one of the drawbacks that a lot of people see is that it causes that irritation, not realizing that it's had a long history of medicinal value across cultures. And I was guilty of this as well. I didn't realize that there was a point to it. I just thought that nettle was very warding and protective, which it is, but the medicinal values are very unique. One of the things that nettle does is it causes inflammation, but beneficial inflammation. So if you happen to have a limb that has very low circulation, or if you happen to have if you happen to have a major pain somewhere in your body, if you use nettle, the inflammation caused by nettle helps to counteract the original pain you were feeling, which sounds counterintuitive and counterproductive, but it's not. So scientists think that nettle can do this by reducing the inflammation caused by the original pain and interfering with the way that the body transmits pain throughout the brain. So it's like a distraction. You have this original pain, but if you use nettle, your body is focusing on that pain instead of the original pain, which makes those pain receptors decrease. So stinging nettle might be irritating, but it'll take away the original pain. It's kind of like a TENS unit for endometriosis. You have this major internal pain, but you use basically electroshocks, and it hurts less because you're focusing on the machine working instead of what's happening in your body. Similar idea. Stinging nettle has been used for hundreds of years to treat painful muscles and joints, eczema, arthritis, gout, and anemia. Today, many people use stinging nettle to treat urinary infections and urinary problems, especially those with like an enlarged prostate. In addition to that, it's used for hay fever, used in compresses and creams for joint pain, sprains, strains, tendinitis, and insect bites. Just some words of caution, because it is an irritating plant. It's generally considered safe, but obviously use it as directed. Occasional side effects include mild stomach upset, fluid retention, sweating, diarrhea, and hives and rash if you use it for topical uses, but that's pretty common. It's important to be careful with handling it because touching it does cause allergic reaction, and it should never be applied to an open wound. Keep that in mind. It can also alter your menstrual cycle, so it's not recommended if you're pregnant because it can cause miscarriage because it inflames internal parts of your body. But getting into the books, start with Scott. He says basically what you'd expect. It's pretty warding and protecting. So nettle, or Urtica dioica, butchered that one, also called stinging nettle as general, is masculine and ruled by the planet Mars with the element of fire. It's associated with Thor, and its powers are exorcism, protection, healing, and lust. It's heat. It's irritating, it's explosive, it's inciting. Magical uses. The protective powers of nettle have long been used in magic to remove a curse and send it back, stuff a poppet with nettle, or carry someone a sachet. Also sprinkle the nettle around the house to keep out the evil eye and send it back. Nettle is also thrown into the fire to avert danger, held in the hand to ward off ghosts, carried with yarrow to ally fear, and worn as an amulet to keep negative energy far away. A pot of freshly cut nettles placed beneath a sickbed will aid a person in healing, and nettles have sometimes been used as a lust-inducing herb, and contemporary Mexican spiritualists recommend its use in purification baths as it's more carnivorous than other herbs, so it will work more effectively. So, thanks God. Now into Grandma. There were a lot of different passages in here. Mainly they're pretty short and sweet passages, so I just picked a couple of them that I felt was important. You can use nettle in addition to rosemary and peppermint, so equal parts, fresh or dried, and you steam your scalp with this, which is a deep cleaning dandruff treatment. They recommend if you use fresh nettle, be sure to wear gloves while preparing the mixture to avoid being stung by the plant. Steep 2 tablespoons of dried herb mixture or 1/2 cup of fresh herbs in 2 cups of hot water and cover in a container for like 10 minutes. Strain the infusion, let it cool slightly and apply carefully to your scalp. Then cover your hair in a shower cap and wrap your head in a hot, wet towel. Leave the treatment on for about 30 minutes and use an herbal rinse. It'll help because you're drawing blood to the surface because you're causing inflammation, which then will help to alleviate the itch of dandruff. So that's pretty nifty. In addition, nature provides its own remedies just when allergy season hits. Spring greens and flowers often make the best potions for allergy relief. Look in your neighborhood for nettle, eyebright, cleavers, and elderflower. Pick them fresh and steep them in 1/4 of a cup of herbs in a quart of water overnight, then strain out the herbs and drink the liquid hot or cold throughout the day. There's lots of plants that are natural antihistamines. The problem is we used to have a lot more female trees than male trees, but as cities started being made, seeds were seen as annoying nuisances to the community, so they took away the female trees and planted more male trees, so there is an overabundance of pollen, which is why more people today have allergies than they ever have before. So that sucks. It used to be you could make teas that were natural antihistamines and be alright, so it will help, but it's not nearly as effective as Benadryl. So, with a grain of salt. So, there's that. And then herbs for health. One of the things I found that was really cool in this is that another way to strengthen your connective tissue with silica-rich herbs like horsetail, knotgrass, and nettles. There's a lot of mentions in here that nettles help with not only muscle and joint issues, but also bone issues. With that inflammation, it causes a protective barrier around the thing that needs to be tended to, and the more blood you get to an area, the easier it is to repair. So that's pretty cool. I thought that was nifty. In addition, if you have gallbladder issues or if you have gallstones, you can treat your stones and reduce your inflammation with marshmallow chamomile or an old Russian folk remedy, nettle. You can also use cramp bark for spasms, but that's an entirely other thing. Instead of causing direct inflammation, it reduces the inflammation that is being caused by whatever ailment ails you and helps your body focus on the reaction to the nettles instead of the reaction to whatever is causing you problems. So yeah, it's just a distraction, which is pretty cool. Uric acid stones are found in urine that is too acidic. If you get this type of stone, eat cherries, strawberries, apple juice, asparagus, and nettles to make your urine more alkaline. So again, you got urinary tract issues, nettle will help you. So I thought this was pretty important. This is in Midwest medicinal plants, and I hadn't mentioned this in my mullein video, but I figured I would mention it here because this is something to take note of. So some plants hold a lot of heavy metals because they draw up the water from their roots and bring it to the rest of the plant, and the heavy metals don't affect the plant, but will affect you if you use these. So dock, lamb's quarters, and nettle all take up and synthesize heavy metals such as lead from the soil. So if you're getting your stuff wildcrafted and you find nettles that are close to industrial parks or industrial farms that happen to deal with heavy metals, I would avoid those just because it is very likely that the plant has taken up all of those chemicals and all of those metals, and then you will be ingesting those and it will make you very sick. So keep that in mind. I thought that was really important and I hadn't mentioned it previously, but there are some plants that do that and nettle is one of those. So keep that in mind, just a word of caution. Now, what I like about Midwest medicinal plants is that It also talks about eating nettles because you can. It's not just a medicinal plant. Nettle is a nourishing and functional herb that doubles as a food and a medicine, offers minerals, and is a tonifying plant for the body. The sting of the nettle can also be used medicinally by helping to restore sensation to areas of the body that are deadened from nerve damage or that suffer from ghost pain. If you have some sort of cardiovascular issue, or if you have a missing limb that you used to have and you get those ghost pains, you can use nettle to kind of recenter your body's sensations and understand that it is no longer there. So that's pretty cool. Nettles are very nutrient dense, rich in vitamins C and A, calcium, magnesium, zinc, iron, cobalt, copper, potassium, B complex vitamins, and even protein, and are high in chlorophyll. They're pretty great. It's just, you'll want to boil them. I wouldn't just eat them off the plant because your mouth is gonna be like, what is happening? But the best time to look for nettles is April to June in spring, or late fall in October or November. You're looking for nitrogen-rich, damp soil. So you'll often find them growing around rivers, streams, lakes, springs, ditches, wetlands, and drainage areas. Which again, drainage areas is why you're going to want to be aware of what is around that plant, because ditch water is always give or take on whether it is okay or filled with things you don't want in your body. They recommend you use the smaller of the leaves and the smaller of the woody stems instead of the big thick parts, because they aren't very delightful to eat. But you just chop them up. You can either freeze them or you can dry them. Either way, that'll take the sting out of it. And as always, if you're drying something, make sure it is completely dry before you put it in any kind of container, because if there is even a tiny bit of moisture, your entire jar will mold. I've found that the hard way in previous endeavors. And it's very sad. So make sure it's completely dry before you use it. So just some more medicinal things. If you really care, there's an entire recipe for just vegan stock. So it's got, burdock root and mushrooms and oat straw and all sorts of other things along with the nettles. So if you care, it's on page 188. Like, I don't really cook. I should probably get better about that, but we're gonna go on to the medicinal things because that's what I truly care about. Topically, the nettle sting can stimulate the nervous system response and help to restore sensation. A tincture of nettle seeds is also good for kidney and urinary tract weakness and to support male fertility. But the plant has a natural green flavor because it's so full of chlorophyll, so it's very similar to spinach, so you can use it just the same. I wouldn't recommend throwing it just in a cold salad because you'll still have that sting and that irritation. But if you use it to boil and make it into just boiled nettle, you can use it just like spinach in anything that you're making. So that's pretty nifty. And of course, it's full of all those good nutrients we just talked about. So if you can't have spinach, you got nettle, use it interchangeably. But in comparison to other green superfoods, nettle's flavor knocks them all out of the park. And enjoy the dried leaves year-round, adding them to soups and brewing them in mineral-dense beverages. You can also infuse nettle in vinegar extracts for the minerals of the plant, and it is a great addition to the pantry for salad dressings and adding mineral density to your foods. So, that's Midwest medicinal plants. And to Nature's Garden. There wasn't a lot on nettle in here, but there was something that I felt was kind of important, so I would pass it along. Young hemp nettle, which is neither a hemp nor a nettle, is often confused with stinging nettle. So if you're going out expecting to be finding a certain plant and you find a stinging nettle instead, you're gonna have a bad time. And like I said, there is a wide variety of different kinds of nettle, so you can find them interchangeably, but they'll all sting you. So just word of caution, be aware of what you're getting. Because if you go into it knowing that you're gonna get stung, it's not nearly as bad. But if you go into it thinking you'll be fine, then you start getting rashes all over your arms. It's not a good day. So, know your lookalikes. Herb medicine. Stinging nettle. This plant is covered in stinging hairs, as we've covered. Each sting causes irritation and inflammation, but oddly the juice of the same flower, as well as the other nearby plants such as yellow dock, will instantly cure the sting. It is a highly praised cleansing cure-all for the stomach, the lungs, and the intestines. The author insists that they know a 95-year-old herbalist who insists that nettle juice or nettle tea will cure ulcers of the stomach and intestines. He combines and makes a tea of nettle juice, plantain juice, and juniper berries. He suggests that the tea is sipped warm throughout the day and over a long period use. So take it with a grain of salt, but that's nifty. Nettle has a reputation as a blood cleanser and acts as a tonic. And more stories that, yeah, don't matter. That's one of my least favorite things, is when people are like, oh, you want a recipe? Here's all of this stuff that comes before it. It's like, I just want to know the recipe. I just want to know what you're talking about. And finally, herbs. That was it. I'm like, I've read all of this before. What's new? So you take one of the woody stalks and you strip out all the fibers. It's a very long, tedious process that I was looking up because I took a deep dive. And Slavic cultures have used nettle for generations to make cloth. And so clothes can be made out of nettle. You just wait for them to get big around, and then it's a very tedious process, but you can use them to make clothes, which I thought was cool, but I'm easily amazed. So there's that. Above all, just err on the side of caution when dealing with nettle. Let it dry completely or freeze it to get rid of the sting so that it's easier to handle. Or if you don't want to wait that long, just use gloves. That'll help. Alright guys, I hope you found this video enjoyable. I'm hoping that you're enjoying my plant blindness series. I know some of you have given me feedback that you really like it, and I appreciate all of your feedback. And I'm trying to get more regular on it because there's lots of things that I need to cover before it starts to get cold out again, because it's already August. Where has the year gone? I digress. I hope y'all had a good one, and I'll see you on the next one. Skål, my friends.